Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please do.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank everybody who came to testify in this bill. I've been hearing a lot about this bill, and it was nice to sort of dig into it. As I indicated at the beginning, I think my goal is a goal that is shared by many in this room. I want election integrity. My frustration is that there is a feeling like there is the one solution to do that. And it's this combination of things. I mean, as I look out in the shirts that are being worn by folks, one day, one vote, I really like that. I might reverse that, actually, one vote, one day. But I think that's the ideal. And when you start going down the road, though, of some of the other things, I certainly support voter ID. But the feasibility of this does matter. If we pass a bill and it goes into effect and it's a total catastrophe, we're not going to be like, well, it's somebody else's fault. You know, they couldn't make it happen. It's easy for us to write words on paper. It's easy. But we have to give consideration as policymakers for what can be done. And that's why we take input from folks across the spectrum, hearing the different views and trying to decipher what can be done. So a couple of things I want to say before I vote. It is not disenfranchising to eliminate a convenience. It is not. And folks have heard me say this, and others are saying this as well. We are confusing convenience for right. Most of the rest of the planet doesn't do it this way, the mail-in. One of the reasons I sponsored and authored the voter ID for mail-in ballots was because I don't like the way mail-in ballots are conducted right now. There is no ID. And now 80% or 85% of folks are using that method. That is a problem. That is contributing to the crisis of confidence that we have, among other factors, in our election system. So I strongly support reforming that system. If folks want to go to eliminating it, as I mentioned earlier, I vote at the polls. I think that's the right way to do it. I think that's the ideal. In the interest of being forthright, I'm skeptical that enough other people out there agree, which means we would have our work cut out for us to go convince them, because folks don't understand that when we pass a bill and it gets signed into law, that is not the end of it. What happens then is there's an opportunity for folks to go out there and get enough signatures to stop what we've done from going into effect. And we passed a comprehensive election reform bill 8 or 9 years ago that happened to. They got enough signatures to stop it. And if that were to happen here, it would go to the ballot, and you'd have 85% of folks casting a mail-in ballot on whether they get to continue casting a mail-in ballot. I think we have our work cut out for us if we're going to convince them that we need to go back to in-person voting. But I'm up for that. That discussion makes sense to me, and I am on board with that. What I have a harder time with is the math of counting by hand. I have asked this again and again, and my frustration is I get the answer, well, we can just do it, or let somebody else figure it out. I don't think that's the right way to make policy. Let somebody else figure it out. When I do the simple math of 150 million votes that are going to have to be counted by hand, I don't understand that. I don't see how that is possible. We have had very basic machines that don't connect to the internet that go back decades. When I am grading Scantrons at Mesa Community College for my students, there's a machine that I'm pretty sure has been there for about 50 years that I feed the Scantrons through, and it tells me really basic stuff. It is not connected to the internet, but it's extremely helpful for my time grading exams. So I think the idea of just eliminating all machines is not super helpful, and I do appreciate the willingness of the sponsor, as he and I talked, to rethink that, to get at what is the issue, which is connecting to the internet. I believe that's the main issue. Because here's the thing, I guess maybe I'm the only one here that feels this way, but I don't like machine counting. I don't like people counting. I think people are corruptible and fallible, and I think machines can be hacked and manipulated. So I'd rather have a combination there. And right now, the system we have in the statute actually envisions at least, a machine count and then auditing that. And I have a bill to beef up the auditing. I'm strongly supportive of auditing our elections. I think that's the better way to focus. So because of the sponsor's willingness to rethink the machine restriction, I'm going to be voting in favor of this bill. It does require, in my view, some work, and we'll have the ongoing conversations. But I wanted to present another view. The hand count, even the auditing that takes place, the smaller sample the way they go about that, they have multiple people count the same stack, because a lot of the times they get to the end, they don't have the same numbers. And nobody has an agenda. I mean, some people may have an agenda, but it just happens. We miscount. And so I actually like the idea of having machines in there, and again, finding this right balance between the two. I don't know that the bill in its present form does that, but I'm willing to work with the sponsor as we try to find that balance. Last thing I will say, and thank you for your patience, folks who criticize the idea of going back to in-person voting, I would say this. It takes Arizona a long time to count ballots at the election. We're one of the last states now. It's kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you, and it's because of this convenience that we become very liberal at, where you can just drop your ballot off and on election day, et cetera. And it takes a long time to count these ballots. And when you have an apparent result on election day, and then a few days later that result changes, that's going to cause the average person to wonder what the heck is going on. Maybe there's a good reason for it, maybe not, but human nature is such that you are going to be skeptical. And this is a function of mail-in ballots, or at least elections taking more than one day. Okay, so I'm on board with the idea. Let's convince people we should do it in a day. Madam Chair, for the reasons I said, I vote aye.